there, folks. I'm Emily.
And I'm Milt.
And it's a little bit of sad news today. Our book wall broke. It might have been because one of us just had to get a particular book that was at the bottom and couldn't wait for a particular other person to help them remove the books that were on top before said person removed said bottom book. And so everything came a-tumbling down.
It was
like the walls
Jenga.
of Jericho.
Yeah. It was like playing book Jenga almost. Well, so we found, what we're trying to say is that we found a flaw in the book wall.
Flaw in the book?
There's a flaw because how do you get the bottom books without making the rest of the stack tumble? But we can assure you that we will get all of our best resources on that to figure out how to solve that problem like Maria.
All of our best people.
Yeah, all the best people. Be assured. And speaking of all the best people, here we go for our segues again. Speaking of all the best people, we're going to talk. This has nothing to do with people. Actually, that's not true. It kind of does. Well, it does. Okay, fine. Go back to our good segue. We're going to talk today about a book by Alexander Christo called To Kill a Kingdom. So, basically what this book is about is you have a siren who's the princess. She's called the Princess Bane because she goes around and she takes the heart of princes. So, you got to sing to them, get them into the water, and then you take the heart.
Rip the heart out of their chest.
The story really begins when she goes after the prince who's made it his life work kind of to go out and kill all the sirens because they're so dangerous because they go to take all the people's hearts. So she gets turned into a human, and then they both are trying to get this power stone that's will or not end the war between sirens and humans because it's going to make whoever has it the most powerfulness of all. It's funny because it's kind of like the Little Mermaid, but it's also not. Yeah, because you still have the same idea of the underwater creature. In this one, mermaids are like creepy, fearsome, weird creatures.
I could not, by the way, picture how she described. I needed a picture of a mermaid. I could not, in my head, figure out what they're supposed to look like.
They seem like scaly, fanged mermaids just without any skin. Just all scale and like fang-like and like, I don't know, mean-looking like.
I need a diagram.
Yeah, and the sirens are all supposed to be so beautiful. They're so beautiful. So you have this, that the Princess Bane, so the princess, Lyra, her mom is the queen, and she basically, she teaches the sirens that we gotta go kill all the humans and we gotta take their hearts because they're coming after us and this is the only way, she basically convinces the kingdom that they're in a battle with humans. And kind of what just the short story is, Lyra was supposed to, she pisses her mom off, so the mom turns her into a human, says, go get this prince's heart. And it's kind of, Lyra starts thinking, do we have to be in a war with each other? Why are we battling humans? Mm-hmm. She starts to ask that question, and maybe there's a way that we can find some way to live together. A side-by-side kind of thing that we don't have to be killing each other. We can live in our happy home in the sea, and the humans can do their human stuff. And so, the human prince that she's going after, he's all convinced, no, we gotta end the sirens. And eventually he also has that, it comes around to, after they fall in love and blah, blah. Do we have to be killing each other? Can we be living side by side to each other? So if you only look at that part of the story, that's actually a very good, message, and it's actually a good, theme. Mm-hmm. It just shows you how, the mom is kind of gaslighting her whole kingdom. No, we're in a war. And if you keep telling people you gotta kill, you just need people to start asking the question of, why are we killing? Because they can live and let live, and they don't because they're just too busy killing. But if both sides stop killing, then there's not going to be any more killing because it's not, they're not antithetical to each other for them both to live.
Right. The Princess Bane goes after, or the Prince Elian is seeking sirens because sirens kill people because they were told to kill people. Then of course, everyone is,
Right. They don't have to be. So that was interesting. And it's also where all the princes come from. They basically, I don't know, there's 100 kingdoms, there's 1,000 kingdoms or something like that.
Something like that.
I think it's 1,000 kingdoms. So there's a lot of princes. And then each one, this is just interesting part of the world building. Each kingdom has its thing. So the Elian's kingdom, it's the Midas kingdom. So everything is gold. They pretend to the royal family can touch things that turn to gold, which it's just part of like the myth of the royal family, but the entire city, like the capital city, is covered in gold. Or you go to like, there's another kingdom that's like the very icy kingdom. So the royals there they all survive through the, through the cold pretty well, whatever. But it's like blue lip people or something like that. And then you've got the kingdom of love, where it's like all weapons get checked at the wall, like no weapons here. And it's all about love and red flower petals and whatever. So that was kind of an interesting thing that she did to make each kingdom very distinct like that. So there was a lot of good stuff here, and we don't necessarily agree on this, because I didn't not mind the book as much as I thought, especially with it being like the romance and all that stuff. I did not mind it as much, but maybe because there were things beyond the romance-ish. Even though there's a lot about the romance that's still like, what? Like, if someone could please explain to me the epic, like the big epic kisses that happen in the middle of battles, I would appreciate that. Like, Sirens are about to like destroy all the people. They're singing them into their water graves, and all of a sudden that's the moment for them to have like a big epic kiss. No. Sorry, no.
Yeah.
It's not there. There's a time and a place, and it's not there. But I think everyone was saying, I think you said they didn't really like it as much, the book. I should say, I didn't specifically like it, but I didn't like mind it as much.
I didn't dislike it. I just didn't really care. Neither of the main characters was drawn in a way that made me really interested in what happened to either of them. And it was maybe also because some of these books, and a lot of books are predictable, but if a character is interesting, you still want to know how they get to that predictable end. But I just didn't find either of the characters. So Elian, who's the prince, I found him particularly uninteresting because, so he's the prince, but he doesn't want to be the king of Midas because he wants to live his life as an adventurer and hunt sirens. And he really just wants to give the kingdom to his sister, who he thinks will be a better monarch. And I guess I found the lack of responsibility to count against him. Now, because he didn't... First of all, I think the people who should be in power are the ones who don't want it. And I think that would have been a much more interesting struggle. Like, he knows that at the end of the year, he's going to be king no matter what. So this is his last year to solve the issue of the sirens and the humans once and for all. But then when he should be king because he is daring and he is brave and he also has empathy. Like, he does all this killing, but he really doesn't want to. So, I don't know. And then Lyra was just... She was that... Like, she's a warrior and she's too cool for everyone. Yeah. And I don't know. I just didn't... I wasn't entranced by either of them, I guess.
You didn't hear the siren song in this one.
Boom! I did not hear the siren song in this book. There were also enough things. So it took a while to get to the point, which was Lyra has to become human so she can join Elian in his quest, but he doesn't know who she is at the time. But when she's on the ship, there's one other woman who's part of this pirate crew, and she wants to be best friends with Lyra, even though this woman, Madrid, is a trained killer. She had been a slave, and it makes no sense to me that she would be so trusting and that she was like, oh, just there's another woman now, so we can be BFFs. It's like, you would not be like that. And even Elian trusts Lyra's story and gives her weapons and all these things. And it's just, if he's supposed to be a pirate and he has this compass that points to truth, it just seemed a little far-fetched. And of course the whole thing's fantasy, but within the world, I didn't buy it.
Yeah. Well, so that's also going back. I also kind of do a double take when you have like the royals who don't want, not because like, oh, I know my sister's going to be a better monarch, but because I want to go sail the seas. Because there's always a sense of like, you got to be true to yourself. You got to, you shouldn't give up on what you love and blah, whatever. But there's also the sense of responsibility, like you're saying. Like, right. This is a position that you were born into, and you might hate what you were born into, but you're just going to ditch your whole kingdom because, oh, I want to go sail the seas. Like, that's really selfish.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the court, change the way the court works.
Right. That's the point of being in charge. I liked Lyra at the end because she does take the mantle of responsibility despite their romance. She says, no, this is where I'm supposed to be, and I need to lead the Sirens in a new way of life.
Yeah.
And I admired that.
Yeah. So there was some substance beyond the romance, kind of, but it's, But I don't think we gave the ratings yet. Violence we gave 2.5. There's death and battles and stuff that's going on and people ripping people's hearts out, so that's kind of why it's there. Language is a 4. I don't think there's the F-bomb there, but there's the B word there. So that's why, that's a no for us.
Yes.
And then romance is a 2. There's kissing and crushing, but they don't go beyond that also, which is a relief.
Right. Though there is, did you pick up on this weird insinuation that, so Lyra's mom is the sea witch, like the sea queen.
Oh, yeah.
And she has like this pet merman who's part shark or something.
Yeah.
Did you pick up on the fact that he molested Lyra?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe violence should go up then. There was something weird, like he's like the flesh eater because the way he like attacks humans or something.
Yeah, and then a few times when he's there, he kisses Lyra and Lyra says, this was different, like the way he takes it from me.
Yeah.
And like what my mother has allowed him to do to me. So there was some weird...
Well, because it seems like
there's
no male sirens, right? There's only female sirens. Right. So they have to, I don't want to say breed, but I guess they have to reproduce with mermaids. Or mermen, I guess. Right? That's what it seems to be. And it's like...
Is that it, or does she just create them?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think that's super clear.
Yeah, that's not super clear. And it does seem like, I don't know, it doesn't say that she's been... Right, maybe molested or just maybe even like abused, not in a sense, abused just that she's being taken from, like she doesn't want to be kissing him and then he's like all over her, kissing her. So it's not like an actual abuse, but it kind of is an abuse because it's crossing the line of this doesn't belong to you. So yeah, he's creepy. And they also have there's one character that it seems like she's a lesbian, even though they don't necessarily say that she is. But it seems like, well, she does. She says that she likes, there's lines about like, oh, that you'd rather be with a woman or enjoy woman's company better. So I think she is, but they don't go into that too much either. So I guess it's nice that when you're in a fantasy world and you're not trying to put our 21st century values like all over things, which is so common now, and you just created its own story and you just have all your different people in it. But that is there too. No details, which...
You said fantasy. Yeah. I was just going to say, you said fantasy. It's kind of steampunk because they have airships and they have guns, but they're also...
You're right. It's kind of a mix of... I'd say it's a mix of genres probably. Because you also have sirens and mermaids. That's not Victorian. Yeah, it could be a mix of genres. But yeah, the one good thing about it that there's 2 good moments is that when you see Lyra saying, hey, I can change this. I got to be queen because I can change this. Which goes... The last episode, Before I Fall, Can People Change? We have an answer here now in this one that people shouldn't, like, oh, I'm good the way I am. Like, yeah, I am going to change. And just the whole gaslighting thing, like, they don't have to be fighting. And let's try to find, because she is convinced, like, oh, we're going to win the war. And instead it's like, hey, the war could be over if both sides agree to not be at war anymore. So there is some good stuff in here. Yeah, but otherwise there's also lots of pearl clutching.
Pearl clutching also, again, with the romance, I do get it because these are written for teens, and when you're a teenager, you're thinking about crushes and romance a lot. So I understand why it's in all these books from that sense, but story-wise, a lot of times it seems to be put in there because romance is expected, but not because it actually fits in the story. Like Elian and Lyra, if they had continued this, at first they don't really trust each other, but when they eventually do trust each other, if it had continued as a friendship or like a power team that's gonna fix the world and explain why they don't need to be at war, it didn't have to be romantic.
Yeah, romance
for
is
them
almost
to come
like
together.
It's like an autopilot button almost in so many of these stories. And then, now, it's almost like, as soon as there's a guy and as soon as there's a girl, you're like, oh, they're going to hook up. Like, you may as well just stop pretending like there's going to be this whole back and forth. We all know what's going to happen, almost. And then sometimes it's like, no, it's different because this time they broke up. Or this time, You know, it's like Chemical Hearts is a toxic relationship. But it's like, come on. Turn off the autopilot. Yeah, that's true too. Even though, I don't know also, like, do we really believe that, do we believe in platonic relationships? I don't know. So who knows? Who knows?
I don't know, but I also don't believe in sirens. So if you're going to put sirens in, there can be.
Also, how does it help also? Because Ellie, are we assuming that him and Lyra are going to get married? But he's not going to be a king of a kingdom. She's just going to be the queen and he's not going to be. So he just gave up one kingdom to marry, but not really married to another kingdom. Like, that part's not really so clear. I mean, it seems like they're stuck. It seems like they've committed to each other, but he just keeps sailing even though he's not married to Lyra. Like, so now you just ditched your people?
Sail. Huh? Right. Because his reason for sailing before was to take out the Sirens, but now, I mean, I guess he's helping all these different countries or the different kingdoms enact their peace treaties with the Sirens and realize the Sirens are okay, which is still, that's a very noble cause. Yeah. It's just not as, I think it would have been more interesting if he had this hard deadline that he was working against. Like, he knew where his life was going, but he was going to do this one last thing in freedom. This is partially my brain. So at the end, there's this huge battle between the Sirens and the humans, which first of all is not very clear because I think Sirens are supposed to be in water.
Yeah.
So they're in a moat, but somehow they attack. So I'm not clear. And it makes me really appreciate some authors who do describe battles very clearly, because you think there's one author in particular, his name is Bernard Cornwell, and we should talk about him at some point. He's really great. And one of the praise he gets, I think specifically from George R.R. Martin, is this guy can write battle scenes. Uh-huh. And when I read this battle scene and I had no idea what was going on, I ended up having to skim it because I just knew I had to get to the end. I realized, oh, that's a skill. Writing good battle scenes that are clear and you know who's where and what's going on, that is a real skill.
Also, because again, the epic kiss like happens in the middle of it. Like, all the humans are almost about to be drowned by the Sirens or something, and all of a sudden they're like kissing each other. It's like, what is going? And then the mother's coming at them also, or doing this, that. Yeah, it's almost like you're trying to put too many things in the same time and space at the same time when your battle scenes are not clear. That's kind of how it turns out sometimes. So, I mean, I'm not exactly the pro of writing battle scenes either, but that's kind of how. Like, you just say everyone was fighting each other, and I knew I had to get to X, and then you're only following one person. Yeah, it didn't.
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
I was definitely confused. But I will say, as someone who doesn't like The Little Mermaid, for so many reasons, and we should come back to that at some point.
Oh, we could. Yeah.
I appreciated that mermaids were the villains in this story, and that she made fun of some of the Little Mermaid stuff, like Lyra gets turned into a human by her mother. Oh, and by the way, her mother's the sea queen, and when she becomes a sea queen, she gets tentacles instead of a fish fin, and I think 100% that was because the author pictured the sea queen in her head like Ursula from Little Mermaid,
maybe,
and was like, this is why the magic works, because there's no real explanation of why the sea queen has to look different. The tentacles don't do anything to her. Right. It's just she looks different, so I feel like that was just her way of getting Ursula into there. So there were a lot of Little Mermaid things, but also making fun of the mermaids.
Yeah, because the mermaids are still obsessed with like human stuff. Like, they still want to collect all the human stuff. They still want all the human stuff. So that was also still there. Yeah.
I have an idea. Okay, what if for our book wall, what if we first build a really long bookshelf and then we put the books in the shelf? So it's still kind of a wall of books, but then we can get any books we want without breaking the whole thing.
But that's just having bookshelves like a library.
Well, do you have a better idea?
I don't know.
No,
we're gonna have
I didn't
to
think so. So you know what? I'm going to start working on it, and you can clean up all the book mess you made. Okay?
Yeah. So
thanks
we'll
for listening.
Probably just go draw plans or something. Okay. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Oh My Word. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe and write a review. And please share the show with your friends. If you didn't like it, you can share the show with your enemies. Please also follow us on Instagram at Oh My Word Podcast. There we post episode updates, our ratings for each book, and also our personal reading recommendations. Music for the show is by Tim Burke. Editor is Gabriel Yaffe. We'll see you next week.